Welcome to our What is Scent Work webinar. My name is Dianna Santos. Over the next little bit, I'm going to be talking to you about what scent work is, why it's awesome, and why you should play. So before we start diving in, let me do a very quick introduction of myself. My name is Dianna Santos. I am the owner and lead instructor of Scent Work University. This is an online dog training platform that focuses on all things scent work, and we have a very large library for you to peruse through. We have online courses, seminars, webinars, ebooks. We host virtual events, a regularly updated blog and articles, the All About Scent Work podcast, which is pretty popular, live streams, free training tips, an instructor mentorship program, and so much more. So we cover everything about scent work, no matter where you are in your sniffing journey, and whether you're playing the game for fun or if you're interested in sports. So if you do happen to have any questions about scent work or what we're offering through Scent Work University, or maybe even have a topic request, by all means feel free to contact me at dianna@scentworku.com. I want to ensure we're offering what you guys are interested in and what you need. So before we start diving into the meat and potatoes, let's just do a really quick review about what it is we're going to be talking about over the next little bit. I'm going to be talking to you about what scent work is as an activity, what it's based on, how it started, how it can benefit all dogs, and the difference between the game of scent work and the sport of scent work, because I think it's important that we recognize what those differences are. Basically, what I'm trying to do is give you a taste about what scent work is and provide you with some other resources about how you can get started with your own dog, how you can play the game, and how you can learn a little bit more. So let's get started. So what is scent work? Essentially, it's a game that was tailor-made for your dog. What we are doing in scent work is we're celebrating your dog's amazing sense of smell. Just think about in their day-to-day life with your dog. How many times are we telling them, don't do that, don't do this other thing, hey, stop doing that too. We're constantly having our dogs basically be reprimanded for being dogs. But scent work is entirely different. We're actually celebrating this amazing sense of smell that they have, and we're encouraging them to actually use it in this game. And that is incredibly empowering to our dogs. The very first time that they actually encounter this game, they go, oh, you're happy that I'm using my nose? They get really excited. So that's what we're trying to do with this activity, is we're trying to show the dog, we know that you have an absolutely amazing sense of smell. Here is an activity that we created that allows you to do just that. The way to think about it as far as what it is to kind of get your hands around this is that scent work is essentially the civilian equivalent of what professional detection dog teams do. So think about police dogs that may be searching for narcotics, or military dogs that may be hunting for IUDs or explosives, search and rescue teams that are tackling avalanches or building collapses, medical detection dogs that may be trying to determine if someone has diabetes or something similar, and more uses of dogs in the professional sense of they're doing a job or being created all of the time. Scent work is a civilian equivalent of those things. They allow us to play the game without having to be in the real world type of situation. The great thing about it is that scent work is extraordinarily flexible, meaning that it's a really fun activity that we can play with our dogs in any way that we want. Or we could actually prepare with our dogs to go compete in the sport realm, that there are actually competitions that are centered all around scent work. There's lots of different competition organizations you can choose from. They all have different rules and regulations and different things that you can do. But the main thing to take away, if you don't listen to anything else about this webinar, is that scent work is something that we can play so that it works for both us and our dog, whether that's the game piece or the sport piece. It's fabulous, and I cannot say enough good things about it. So I may have already piqued your interest a little bit, and you may have some questions. The first question you may have is like, wait a second, you were just talking about something about detection dogs. So are we in scent work? Are we training detection dogs? Do I get to go and bring my dog to the airport like a TSA dog and check all the suitcases? And the answer is no. No, when we're talking about scent work, we're talking about the game that we're playing for fun. And professional detection dog teams, like some of the examples I was giving, police, military, search and rescue, medical detection, those teams are doing that stuff for work. They're doing it oftentimes in life and death situations. So it's not kind of like, I don't feel like playing today. No, there's a bomb in there that you have to tell us where it is. Or if it's there at all, please go find that. So we need to have a lot of reverence for our professional detection dogs and their handlers, as well as their trainers. They're doing very, very important work. But because they're doing such important work, the requirements that they have as far as how they're going to train, how often they're going to train, how hard they're going to train is vastly different than what we would do even in the sport side of set work, even at the highest levels. It's not apples to apples at all. It's completely different. And that's okay. It doesn't need to be the same. The wonderful thing about scent work is that it provides all of us in the civilian realm to have a safe way to play this with our dogs. So as we can see here on the screen, there's a little photo I was able to find of a search and rescue dog who is working a rubble pile. And we can see that the person, again, this is a training scenario. They have all kinds of safety equipment on. They got a helmet and all this stuff. Just look at all those sharp edges and all these things that are potentially hazardous that are just sticking out of this rubble pile. Majority of us would not want our dogs traversing over this stuff to try to find either a person or something else. So with scent work, we're not going to be required to do this type of thing. We're going to do things that are a lot safer, that are accessible to all dogs and also all handlers, all people. Because if, let's say, you're using a walker or you're in a wheelchair, you can't do this, right? But in scent work, we can create scenarios where you and your dog can still play the game and do so safely. The great thing about scent work is that it's a ton of fun. Is it different than what professional teams do? Yes, but that's what makes it great. It makes it accessible. We can make it however we like. There aren't a whole lot of real limitations that we have on us. We can get pretty darn creative. And I gotta tell you, the people who train and practice in scent work in the civilian sense, them and their dogs are really, really good. They're really impressive as far as how quick and enthusiastic and efficiently they and their dogs can tackle a search. So it's not as though, this scent work thing is just for babies. That's not true. We have some really impressive teams all over the United States, all throughout Canada, and quite frankly, all over the world. Scent work is really exploding in popularity. The great thing about scent work also is that it provides us with an opportunity, both us and our dogs, to say, you know what, I'm just not up to doing this today. And you don't have to, right? It's a game. So let's say, as an example, you had all the wonderful plans of doing a search with your dog later on in the day, but something happened, right? You got called into work, some other life event happened, you just had a queasy kind of tummy, who knows, right? Something came up, and the last thing that you want to do right now is do a search. You don't have to. You can do it tomorrow. But that's the great thing about the difference between what we do and what the pros do. Even when they're not feeling well, they may still have to go out and work. We don't have to. There's all kinds of times we may say, you know what, I'm going to maybe not search today, or I'm not going to tackle this search exactly the way that I thought I was going to. Maybe something changed, who knows? It can be flexible, which is actually really good. So you'd be asking, okay, I kind of understand that. It still sounds like scent work's kind of fun, which I would agree, it's very fun. But you may be wondering, okay, I'm kind of understanding what's going on here, but if we're not searching rubble piles, then where are we searching? Which I answer, it's an excellent question. What a very good thing to ask. The great thing about scent work is that we quite literally can play the sniffing game anywhere. So you can start off inside your house, inside any of the rooms inside your home that you're already hanging out with your dog. You don't have to go anywhere beyond that, especially in the beginning, but if you never wanted to go beyond there, you never have to. That's the great thing about scent work. We can make it whatever we want. But it's not just inside your house. You can also practice in, let's say, your backyard. Then you can practice in your front yard. Then you can start taking it around the neighborhood. Maybe you go on to play dates with, some of the neighbors, or you have friends that you bring your dog over to and they kind of play together. Maybe before the play date, you do a little search. There's all kinds of fun things you can do. Maybe you are taking classes with a dog trainer in person. Maybe they have a training center that you go to and you go for classes for something else, maybe basic manners or other kinds of dog sports. You can do scent work there, both inside the building and outside the building. That's pretty fun. But you can also take this out on the road. You can do this in public parks. You can do it in dog-friendly businesses. You could just get creative. You just start developing what we call in the scent work community, search eyes. where you're just driving along like, oh, that'd be a cool search area. That'd be a really cool search area. Oh, I can't wait to search that. So it just opens up a world of possibilities for you that if it looks like it's safe and your dog is allowed to be there, you could probably search there as long as you get permission first, particularly if it's not a place that, is yours. But you're like, okay, I kind of understand it, but still, like, what exactly are we searching? Where are we searching? Well, for the majority of scent work, when we're talking about the game and the sport, is broken down into what we call search elements. So these are the kinds of things the spaces that our dogs are searching to find something in particular. So they're broken down to 4 general major categories. That's interiors, exteriors, vehicles, and containers. So interiors can quite literally be anything that's inside, or it could be, let's say, a tent that has a cover, or it could be an enclosed porch. Again, these can get pretty creative. Exteriors could be maybe, let's say, there's an outside part that has 2 little pillars and a little bit of an overhang, but doesn't have walls. Hey, that would still count as an exterior. It could be your yard. It could be the outside of a building. It could be a grassy little median. Who knows? It could be anything. The great thing about vehicles and containers is that not only would we be searching those things, which I'll talk about in a second, but they can also be in different places. So we could have a vehicle search inside or outside. We could have a container search inside or outside. So that offers a lot of different variety as well. For scent work, when we're searching vehicles, you're like, oh, so we're searching cars. Yes, that is a typical way of doing it, but it could be any kind of vehicle. So maybe it's a car, maybe it's an SUV, it could be a truck, could be a motorcycle, could be a bicycle, could be a wheelbarrow, could be a cart. It could be anything really that people use to get from point A to point B. And sometimes it's really super creative, which is really cool. The big thing to think about with vehicle searches is that the hides are always going to be on the outside. It's never going to be inside. So we're not going to be placing the hides inside, let's say, the glove compartment or in between the seats. So the doors are always going to be closed, let's say for a typical car, and the hides will be on the outside. Like, well, why is that? Well, we don't want the dogs clawing up the car. Dog claws and cars don't get along too well. So if we place those hides on the outside, dog is able to still find it and they don't destroy the car quite as much. And they're like, okay, that makes sense, but what's this container thing you're talking about? Well, you had mentioned earlier about TSA. So containers are something like luggage or boxes or toolboxes, anything that's used to contain other stuff. And this can get really super creative. People have lunch boxes and cookie tins and all kinds of stuff. They get really, really creative. And the thing is, the container is enclosed and there's something inside of it that we've trained the dog to find. So they have to go along, let's say, a row of 12 boxes, and they gotta let me know which box has a thing in it. Pretty cool stuff. And all the containers are different, meaning that there's different types. So your luggage is going to be really different from a box. It requires different skills from your dog. The odor is going to escape differently. So they have to learn how to tackle it, which is really super exciting. So what I'm trying to describe here is that you have lots of opportunities as far as where you can search and the types of areas that you would be searching. That's what makes scent work so exciting and fun, is there's a lot of variety. So we're going to share with you a couple of video examples so you can see what some of these search areas can look like. And these are courtesy of the NSCSW virtual walkthrough. I'll ensure there's a link for this so you can peruse their site, and that will be on the replay page. So take a look at some of these videos.
This is the walkthrough video for Bowie, Maryland Elite. And the start line is there. There's a little vestibule that you're going to walk into. And I'll go right to left. This is the first room. Little hallway. All these doors will remain open. Second room, see the bathroom is taped out of play. Third room. And then this is kind of a roundabout into this other room. The clubhouse. And then this walks back to the entryway there, where the start line is. This is also out of play, that bathroom there. And back to the beginning.
Good morning. This is your interior search for the NW3 on January 13th at the March Airfield Museum. The start line is to the right. This part is not included, but here is your search area. But if you notice, your start line is fairly deep inside here, so take your time getting up those stairs, acclimate yourself, and this is the search. It goes all the way to the end here. You will also notice that there is another exit door there. It's sort of blocked off. Cockpit not included. And then turning around, there's the rest of your search. Have fun.
This is the Asheboro, North Carolina pavilion search. That vehicle will not be here tomorrow. Includes the whole pavilion. If you look very carefully out in the distance, there are some green soccer dots. Includes everything within that space. There's some orange soccer dots there. That's your boundary. I'm standing at the threshold.
This is your afternoon vehicle search. So the two wooden carts are in play, but the red trailer back here is not in play. So it is the two wooden carts and the white vehicle and the orange vehicle.
You're like, okay, that makes sense. But what are we searching for? And again, these are all excellent questions. You get a gold star and an A+. And you're going to get this answer a lot in set work. And it may get really frustrating at times, but it's an important answer. And that's, it depends. Like, what does that mean? In the context of what we're talking about today, of what is scent work, I hope that I can impart upon you that you can make scent work whatever you want. So that means that when you're asking, well, what do I have my dog hunt for? It really depends on what you want to do. So as an example, when I'm first training clients, I will have them hunt for what I call primary. And that basically is a really fancy word to, mean food. I'm having the dogs go out and find food that I've hidden within the search area, within that interior space, within that exterior space, on that vehicle, or inside of a container. And the reason why I start with food, which is why we call it primary, is that I don't have to train the dog to find the food. They already find food pretty delicious, particularly if I've taken the time to figure out what type of food they really, really, really like. So if I were, let's say, to first start, show the dog, ooh, I've got meatball, and then I were to kind of jog over somewhere and put the meatball somewhere on the floor ahead of them, and then I came back and said, ooh, where's the meatball? They're going to go try to find the meatball. That kind of thing. So when we're thinking about it in those terms, you could also potentially have your dog find toys if they really like toys. So you could do the same exact thing. We can hide toys inside interior spaces or exterior spaces, around a car or inside of a container. That works too. And the thing is that you never really have to go beyond that if you don't want to. You can have your dog find food and toys forever, and you can have them do pretty advanced searches hunting for those things too. But when we think about the sport of scent work, there is a typical progression that we have where we move on and beyond having the dog find food and toys alone, that now they're finding what's called novel target odors. Like, oh, what's that? These are things that don't necessarily mean anything to the dog unless we train them that they're actually valuable. So at sport, this is where we're using specific essential oils, and they're prepared a certain way. And we're placing those essential oils onto a Q-tip, and then we're putting that Q-tip into something that we call an odor vessel, like a metal tin or a straw or a tube. And that way it's nice and contained. It's not contaminating our entire environment. And then we place that, what we call a hide, everything together, the tube plus a Q-tip is all one thing. We place that hide somewhere within the search area. So we can absolutely train our dogs to do that. And when we're doing sport, oftentimes that's what they're doing. They're tackling these searches to find these novel target odor hides out inside of their search areas. And some of the common examples here in the United States, as far as the type of essential oils that we may use, include birch, anise, and clove. It doesn't stop there. We can also train our dogs to find things that smell like us. So these are called scented articles. So some common examples are things like gloves or socks, wallets, credit cards, but it could be anything, a key fob, a pen. It doesn't matter what it is. Any type of item that we've kind of run over through our hands for, let's say, a minute, so it smells like us. It's basically we've imparted some of our skin cells onto that actual item, and we're placing it within the search area, and the dog then has to find that item. There's all kinds of fun ways that we can do that, and that could be really helpful too, right? Like, oh, where are my keys? And the dog goes and gets you your keys. It's fun stuff. And there's lots of other scent-specific sports that go beyond scent work. Then there are other types of scent sports that you can choose from, such as barn hunt, where your dog will be hunting for real rats, safely hidden inside PVC tubes that are hidden within a hay or straw maze. You have NASDA, which offers a couple of different things you can hunt for. You can hunt for rats inside quarry boxes. You can hunt for shed antlers, the antlers that fall off when deer shed them. Or you can hunt for scented articles. There's competition obedience, where you'll be doing competition obedience routine, but then also having your dog find scented articles. Now they're starting up truffle competitions where your dogs are trained to go find truffles, and they have to go inside a specific area in order to find those. More and more fun things to do with our dogs are coming up every day. But the point being is that our dogs can really be trained to search for a whole lot of different things. In scent work, typically speaking, we start them off finding food or toys. Then we progress on to finding essential oils, those novel target odors, and we can also have them find scented articles as well. So I want to give you guys an opportunity to watch a couple of videos of dogs actually tackling these type of searches. You can see what those look like. The next step is the rectangle search. We're going to be placing the boxes so that they're in almost a rectangle shape. Your food boxes will be in positions 1, 2, and 6. Oh, it's so fun. Yeah, boy, nice. What a good boy! That was awesome. Good job, boy. What a good boy! Yay for you! All done! Yeah! That was a great job! Excellent! Good girl! Good job! Find more?
Good girl. Nicely done. All done. Party.
In this video, I'm showing you an example of my tiny terrier tackling an exterior search using item hides. So that means that the hide that he's looking for, which is a piece of food, is hidden within these items. So he's found one hide, and now he's moving in to find the other. Whee! And there he's found his second hide. Nice job. What a boy. In this example, I'm showing him work an environmental hide. That means it's set within the space. Here we can see he's got a whiff of it. He's working back and forth, trying to figure out exactly where that hide is, which again is a piece of food, and he finds it there. What a good boy. Good boy. That's amazing. Yeah, that's a great boy. Good job. Yeah, you're amazing. Good job. Yeah, that was so good of you. Good job. You're right. That was a good one, Pepper. Yeah, look at you. You're great. Yeah, that's a great dog. That was a good one. Good one. Nice job, boy. That was good. Let's find some more. That's a good one. Piper. Yeah, that was great. That's a great dog. Did you do it? You did. You're amazing. So another question you may have is, okay, so I have a better idea about what this network thing is. And I kind of know where we would be searching, and I kind of know what we would be searching for. But are you sure that like all dogs can play? Like this kind of sounds like this is only a thing certain dogs can do. And my answer is absolutely not. That is not true at all. Every single dog can play scent work. And my mission is, as long as I'm in this community, is to promote that every single dog on the planet should be playing scent work in one way, shape, form, or another. This is true for all breeds. Your dog does not have to be a specific breed to be very good at scent work. Like, well, what about the dogs with the really tiny little bitty smushed in faces? They have tiny little noses. Can they still do this? And the answer is yes. We have had lots of success with dogs who, from pugs to boxers to bulldogs, are able to do very well with scent work. And like, okay, well, what about, are boy dogs or girl dogs better? Doesn't matter. They're all really great. And the other great thing about scent work is, as a sport, you can actually have your intact dogs play. So intact boys and girls are more than welcome to play. They may, for instance, intact girls may just have to wear panties when they're competing, and they may have to run last. But for a lot of dog sports, if your little intact girl was in heat, she wouldn't be allowed to compete that day. But that's different for a lot of scent work competition organizations, which is great. We still get to play with our dogs. The other thing to keep in mind is that scent work is good for dogs of all ages. There are some activities that are better for dogs of a certain age group, where it may be too high octane for really young puppies, maybe really hard on their bodies. It may also be just too much for a dog who's a little bit older. But that's not true with scent work. Every single age group can do this and do really well. Scent work can actually be an excellent option for puppies because it can be lower octane, lower impact, so that it's not going to be too hard on their bodies, but it's going to be promoting them to think. It's going to be promoting them to problem solve and to build confidence, which could be amazing. It could also be fantastic for dogs who are just adults, who are just the prime of their lives. This can be an amazing thing that you can incorporate into your training and into your practice, and it's just something to even take the edge off, and they could be like, oh, I love this. But senior dogs have a really good time with scent work too, because they may have aged out of some other activity, but they actually have found that scent work is really working out very well for them, where they're able to do this, whereas some of the other activities they may have had a harder time with. The other wonderful thing about scent work is that it's open to every single type of dog, regardless of what kind of handicap they may have, or any kind of other limitation that may have prevented them from doing other types of activities. So as an example, dogs who are deaf or blind, or maybe they have mobility limitations, maybe they're even in a cart. Scent work is wonderful for all of them. All those dogs can still play. I have had clients fit all these categories that have done exceedingly well in scent work, particularly at trial. You would be amazed. Blind dogs are absolutely superb when it comes to scent work. Dogs in carts just go buzzing around finding their hides. Deaf dogs are incredible as well. So I cannot say enough good things about who scent work is open to, because it's literally open to all dogs. There's another really important category of dogs I want to talk about really quickly, and that's reactive dogs. Now, this can be a very large category of dogs. This could be dogs that are not too keen about other dogs. Maybe they're a little worried about other people. Maybe they just tend to be like, oh, I'm really worried about something. I make a lot of noise. This category of dogs are welcome in scent work. Now, again, going to get into more the nitty-gritty and the details the further along we go. But particularly for the game, every single dog should be playing scent work, especially dogs who are reactive. It can provide them a fantastic, appropriate outlet. You may actually be encouraged to do this activity if you're working with, let's say, a trainer or a behaviorist who may be putting together a behavior modification program for you and your dog. They may actually suggest you should be doing on a parallel track scent work in order to help your dog get the best enrichment out of their lives so that they can do problem solving, they can make really good decisions, they can get an appropriate mental and physical outlet in ways that are going to help them do better and not have them practice the things we don't want them to practice. Also, on the sports side, a lot of organizations are open to reactive dogs. And some organizations are going to take steps in order to promote for those reactive dogs to have really safe encounters at trial, where they will have different types of approaches, let's say in the parking lot, that all the dogs are going to be safely within their vehicles. And when they are out, it's when they're going to go potty or they're going to go towards a search area. That dogs that are reactive will wear red bandanas in order to let everyone know, make sure you give this dog a little bit more space. But all that being said, there's a really important caveat to all of this, is that you really should be careful if your dog is worried about other people. It's really not a good idea to do in-person trials with those dogs. There are just a lot of people at trials, and we don't want to set your dog up for failure. So the general rule of thumb is that if your dog is reactive to other dogs, but it's still manageable, you may want to think about trialing. But if your dog is reactive to other dogs and it's not manageable, where they just kind of go off the handle, you may just want to play the game at home and work with your trainer in order to find appropriate ways that maybe you can do some field trip searches. But if your dog is worried about people, you're probably not going to want to do in-person trialing. It may just be a little bit too much for them, and we don't want your dog to make a really bad mistake. The great thing is that there are virtual options that you can do. For instance, I co-founded an organization with my co-founder, Sean McMurray, that's called Cyber Network. And this allows you to work either in person with an approved evaluator, or you can do things online. So you and your dog can still compete, earn titles and ribbons and all kinds of accolades, but you can do it in ways that are safe for both you and your dog. One final little tidbit about this. Reactivity is not the same thing as aggression. So if your dog is biting other dogs or biting other people or biting you, please make certain that, again, you are working with a reputable trainer in person, potentially a behaviorist, in order to figure out what is really going on, how best to set that dog up for success. And those dogs should not be competing in person at all. It's just not safe. But the great thing about scent work is that even for those dogs, even for dogs who are aggressive, this is a fantastic activity to do safely at home with them, and it can help broaden their horizons by giving them a really good outlet that will help them both mentally and physically. So you may be asking, okay, you keep talking about benefits. Can you talk about that a little bit more? Be specific. Yes, absolutely. I'd be more than happy to be specific about the benefits of scent work, because there are many of them. We have to remember, at its core, this scent work is celebrating the dog's sense of smell. We are encouraging them to do something that is extraordinarily important to them. Dogs live through their nose, so the fact that we're giving them an opportunity, we are not going to put human expectations on you. You get to be a dog for this period of time while you're tackling the search. That's amazingly empowering to the dog. I've mentioned a few times it provides mental and physical stimulation and appropriate outlet. That is a fantastic thing to remember and to really remind yourselves of, because scenting is challenging. It's hard, both physically and mentally for the dog. Just think about every time your dog has to sniff, they have to contract all the muscles around their lungs, and they have to bring in all that air and then blow it out. And they're doing that very, very quickly. Let's talk about like 200 breaths a minute or something crazy. That's a lot. And they're moving throughout the space while they're doing that, oftentimes at speed. They're oftentimes trotting or even running. And they're trying to decipher the odor plume as they're going through the space, which is really, really complicated. You and I can't see what odor looks like in the space, but it's really hard. Odor is actually very dynamic and it interacts with everything within that space. So your dog is trying to problem solve, work all this out, while simultaneously having all these physical demands on them, where it's physiologically changing their body. It's increasing their body temperature. They're using all those different muscles. They're having to use their brain. It's a lot. But that's good. It's a lot in a really good way, because you're able to work them on both sides of that equation. We're not just running them ragged until their tongues are hanging out, and we're not just asking them to do sits 10 million times. We're asking them to do some physical stuff and some mental stuff in a way that they love to do. The other wonderful thing about scent work, and why I'm so passionate about this activity, is the changes that we can see in the dog when they play. One of the biggest ones is that scent work can help our dogs develop more confidence. You're like, well, why is that? At the core of it, we are asking our dog to go into a space to find something. In the beginning, it's going to be something that they find naturally reinforcing, like a piece of food. And that piece of food is going to be really, really high value, like a meatball. Something they really, really want. But there may be certain things in that space as we go along that are a little bit challenging. Maybe your dog has to go into a tight space. Maybe they have to go into a corner. Maybe they have to duck under something in order to get the food. Maybe they have to walk over something that makes noise as they're walking over it. There's all kinds of different things that they may encounter as they're trying to tackle their search. Because the dog really wants to get that thing, the piece of meatball as an example, they're able to make choices in order to determine, is it worth it for me to get that meatball? And then we can read what the dog is telling us to determine, do I need to break this down to smaller steps to show them that they can do this, that they're not going to die, nothing bad is going to happen. And then the dog learns through their own experience, I can do this. I can get in that tight space. I can go in that little corner. I can duck under that thing. I can walk over that really noisy little whatever it is, because I want to get my meatball. Time and time again as instructors, we see dogs who are extraordinarily sensitive, very scared, worried about everything in the world, start off with scent work, and over a period of time, it changes for every dog, but over a period of time, they blossom into, they are so confident when they're playing this activity, it never gets old. So this is one of the biggest things, is that we can help dogs develop more confidence with this activity. Now you may say, well, my dog is already confident. Here's the good news. Every single dog can be more confident. Confidence is everything. And many of us forget that we're asking our dogs to live inside a human world. There's lots of things that happen around us just in day-to-day life that you and I just kind of ignore. It's just stuff that happens. But it's alien to our dogs. It could be scary to our dogs. And scent work, again, can help them develop the confidence to better deal with those things, because those noises or movements or whatever they may be may happen while they're searching. And they may say, oh, that's not a big deal. I still want to get my hot dog. But then if that were to happen outside of a search, they did that learning already. That wasn't so scary. That wasn't something for them to be worried about or to bark about or whatever. Like, oh, that's no big deal. Great. Again, nothing happens inside of a vacuum. If your dog learns really good skills and things in scent work, that bleeds over to their day-to-day life, which is really good. Essentially, what we're trying to do is we're trying to encourage the dog to make choices and to also experiment. The big thing about scent work is, again, we can't see odor. We're taking guesses when we're setting our hides. We're using the best guess we possibly have. I think the odor is going to do this. And hopefully you're going to be able to find it. And then our dog has to problem solve in order to figure out how to do that. And they have to experiment to see, well, what is it exactly that you want me to do? Meaning us as the handlers, particularly when we move beyond finding, let's say, food, where it makes really good sense to the dog. I just have to find the food because I want to eat the food. But when we're asking them to find something like novel target odors like our birch or anise or clove, they may have to really experiment to say, well, what exactly is it that you want? Because odor flows in the space. If I'm 6 feet away from it, does that count? How about 2 feet away? Or do you want me to get right next to it? That kind of thing. So it's really cool as far as watching the dogs be able to use their brains and do a lot of really good thinking when they're figuring all these things out. That problem solving, they're using their brains for good. Your dogs are actually very, very smart, inquisitive, social, problem-solving little creatures. If we can use those problem-solving skills for this, they're not going to create all those doggy-only games that kind of drive us crazy. We're like, I know, I've been ignored for a little bit. I'm going to steal the shoe, show them I stole the shoe, and then run around the house with it. Well, maybe if we do scent work for a little bit, we can satiate their needs so that they don't want to play the shoe game, as an example. Another great thing as far as building our dog's confidence is it can also broaden their horizons as far as not only within scent work, but in day-to-day life, where again, you have that bleed over effect, where they may have encountered something in scent work and now they see it in day-to-day life and like, oh, that's not that big of a deal. But also we may have to do some management with our dog. So again, maybe our dog is a little bit more aggressive, right? Where it's really not safe for us to take them to a lot of places. We can provide them a lot of enrichment just with scent work at home. Depending on how we set up our searches and the way that we set everything up, it can be really fun and exciting, and they never need to leave home base. So there's so many benefits of how we can really leverage this activity to help our dogs have the best quality of life they possibly can. One of the biggest reasons why I advocate for scent work as hard as I do is that it strengthens the bond between the dog and their person. You're like, well, why and how? Again, very fair questions. The reason being is that scent work encourages us as people to spend more time watching our dogs because they're the ones with the nose. So we take, let's say, our piece of meatball, we put it out somewhere, we get our dog, and we tell them to go search. And the whole time we're watching our dog, seeing if they're going to find the meatball. And in that time, there's not a lot that we can do. There's not a lot that we should be doing. Right? This is all up to the dog now. But that means that for the very first time, maybe, you're really watching your dog and you're listening to your dog because your dog is actually communicating to you as they're working that space. What they do with their bodies as they're working through a space is really a narration of what odor is doing and what the dog's experience is in that space. And you may suddenly have a light bulb moment where you can actually kind of understand what they're saying. Oh, the odor's over here. Oh, look, there was a little critter that was here before, but I'm going to leave that alone because I want to find my hot dog. And they go, oh, I found it. I got it. I'm so excited. There's all these little communications that our dog can share with us. And then when they realize that we have understood them, oh, the light and the sparkle in their eyes is something that, again, I will never get tired of. The very first time that they have that sense of realization, it is the most heartwarming thing. And again, that doesn't live in a bubble. Once you've unlocked that code, or you've started to, you start to understand what your dog is saying all of the time because they're communicating to us 24/7. So when you're just hanging out on the couch and the dog happens to walk into the room and look up at you, you can kind of understand what they're saying. And then there's this mutual understanding, like, oh, we understand each other. And that is amazing. As you go along in scent work, when you're training, maybe you are getting ready to participate in the sport. There's lots of things that we have to work on as handlers too, so that we are being the best teammate for our dog. And that requires us to do some learning and to shore up our skills. And that allows for our dog to better understand what we're saying. So we're being really mindful what we're saying to them. And there can be a lot of understanding back and forth where we can now see effort that our dog is making. We're not automatically going to, oh, my dog is so stubborn. Oh, my dog is so dumb. Oh, my dog is so this. Instead, we can kind of see them trying, or we can better yet see when they may be confused and how we can help them. But the same is true the opposite way. Our dogs can see when we're trying. Our dogs can see when we are having a little bit of a, I don't know how to tell you what I want you to do. And they're like, okay, I'll just kind of hang out here for a minute and see if you're able to figure it out. It's amazing. So I encourage everyone, if you can get involved in scent work, I strongly encourage it. I think that it brings the level of relationship you have with your dog to a whole other level, to another stratosphere, so you're able to better understand each other. This is not exhaustive by any stretch. I can go on and on about scent work. It's amazing. So really quickly, I know I've mentioned this a bunch, but I want to really dive into some of the differences between the game of scent work and the sport of scent work, because sometimes those two things kind of get conflated, and they are really distinct. They're related, but they're still two different things. So for my purposes, the way I think about this is that the activity of scent work is the foundation for everything, and that's the game. You can play scent work however you want. You can decide how it is you're going to start. You can decide how often you want to train, how often you want to practice, what it is you want to hunt for, all that other stuff. But it is the thing in the activity that every single dog should be playing in whatever flavor that is, however that comes across. Every dog should be doing stuff with their nose. The sport of scent work is a little bit different, because there are going to be certain requirements depending on the competition organization that you decide to compete with. And you may want to compete with multiple organizations. There may be certain rules and requirements you have to keep in mind. But the other thing is just the realities of trial just may not be appropriate for all dogs. It could be that your dog is like, I find trialing really stressful and I don't find it fun. Then they shouldn't be trialing. So by definition, the game is for all dogs. And then the sport is a subset of that, which is for some dogs. Now, it can still be a large number of dogs, but it may not be for all dogs. The big thing to keep in mind is that the game, the activity itself, is the foundation of the sport. We don't have a sport if we don't have the game. The sport is absolutely dependent upon the game, not the other way around. So we need to do lots of training and lots of preparation in the game when we're playing in order to do well when we're trialing. Just to reiterate this, the great thing about the game of scent work is you can customize this to be whatever it is you want it to be. You want to find hot dogs from here until the end of time? You can. You want to do hot dogs and scented articles? No problem. You only want to work inside your house? That's great. You want to go everywhere and do field trips galore? You can do that too. It doesn't matter. Whereas with the sport, there are going to be very specific requirements. Again, they'll be set by the competition organization that you decide to compete with. And if you're going to be competing with multiple organizations, you're welcome to do that, but you got to make sure you're following the specific rules for each. And sometimes there are things that are like opposite to one another. One organization allows you to do one thing, another organization says you absolutely cannot do that. So you want to make sure that you're really up to date with all the different rules so you don't happen to get those confused. And it can get confusing sometimes. So you want to keep that in mind as well. The other thing that I like to remind people about is that the game of scent work, again, whatever it is that you want to do, you are completely in control. So you get to decide how often you're going to play scent work, what type of scent work you're going to do, how much emphasis you want to have on scent work. What are your practice sessions going to be like? Are they going to be really regimented and super organized, and we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and then A, B, and C? Or is it going to be just like fly by the seat of your pants? I decided to do a search today, and you just put something out. It could be whatever you like. That's the great thing. It could be low octane, it could be high octane, it could be low pressure, it could be high pressure. It doesn't matter. It's entirely up to you. But the sport, by design, it's for competition. It's going to require that both you and your dog are putting in the training and the practicing necessary so that you're developing the skills that you need to pass the test. That's what competitions are. They're tests. And inherently, the test itself is going to be higher pressure for both you and your dog. And that's an important thing to keep in mind. And the thing that I just like to stress for people is that if you start feeling that pressure and it starts taking away your joy for playing the game, back up and practice more just doing the game for a bit. Get your confidence back up. Just have fun. And then maybe work with your trainer in order to develop some training exercises to ease both you and your dog into that pressure. So it becomes something that you can deal with and cope with, and it's not a big deal. Or you may decide, you know what, I just don't want to deal with pressure. Then don't. You don't have to. Just play the game. But I think it's important for all of us to realize that these are two distinct things. You don't have to do competition. It's not a requirement. You can, and people who do compete, they have a lot of fun if it's appropriate. And they may determine at some point, you know what, I was having a blast competing. And then I just found I got to a certain level and I didn't want to do it anymore. You don't have to. You can stop whenever you like. It's completely voluntary. The game is something that I want everyone to do as often as they can. That's appropriate for them and their dogs, and to focus on having fun. But if you are interested in competition, how do I do that? Because this is the most common question that we get. Ooh, I just learned about scent work. I haven't done any training yet, but when do I get to compete? It's like, okay, calm down. Just know, again, that competition is all about taking a test. That means that we have to develop skills. We have to develop skills for both you and your dog. This is going to take time in order for you to do well. There is something about scent work competitions that I will just let you know about, that for many of the organizations, the lower levels can kind of lull you into a false sense of security. Depending on you and your dog, you may actually do well for a level or two, even if you haven't trained and practiced all that much. Like, oh, we're doing great. And it's those middle levels that get everybody because they're progressive. So they're stacking skills on top of each other. So if your foundation isn't really solid, by the time you get to those middle levels, it really comes back to bite you. So as an instructor and a trainer, I'm always encouraging everybody, let's pump the brakes a little bit. And let's make sure that we have the skills for both us and our dogs and they're as solid as possible. So I would encourage everyone to first think about how you're going to train, right? If you're interested in competition, there's lots of different schools of thought when it comes to dog training, and Scent Work is no exception. For myself, I like to follow what's called the canine noseword training method. And that means that we are starting the dogs to find primary, so food or toy hides that are hidden within the search area. And we're trying to develop the dog's hunt. We're trying to develop their independence and their confidence while also working on your skills as a handler. And we're working on helping the dog find something that is inherently rewarding to the dog. I don't need to convince them that this is rewarding. They want the meatball. So we start there, and then once all that stuff is looking pretty good, then we bring in the target odors later. There are some other schools of thought that do it completely in the reverse. They put the dog on odor first, and then they build hunt second. Is one better or the other? It really is about preference. I tend to think that the approach that I take is open to a wider swath of dogs and handlers. You don't need any kind of special training expertise, and all the dogs are like, ooh, meatball, for the most part, or a toy, depending on the dog's preference. From there, our focus is on getting the dog solid on all 4 search elements. And this is what you'd want to do for your training when you're getting ready to trial as well. You want to make sure your dog can do all their skills. They can do solid hunting and solid searching inside interiors, exteriors, vehicles, and containers. You then also want to take this on the road, because just practicing in one location, whether that be home or maybe working with an instructor in person at a training center, the big thing about trials is that they happen everywhere. So they're going to be a novel location that probably you and your dog have never been before. And now you're expected for the test to go into that space and find a thing. That could be very, very hard. So to try to help, one of the things you're going to want to do is to take your searching on the road. Again, have a solid foundation first, the dog understands the game, and then start taking this on the road. From there, you want to start introducing some more advanced concepts as far as harder types of hides, what the search area may be throwing at you, different handling techniques, different stressors that you and your dog may have to encounter, all kinds of fun stuff. And then I would strongly encourage you, before you enter into a trial, volunteer at a trial. It is a wonderful learning experience. Everyone who volunteers at trials always come back and say, I learned so much. I learned so much for me to have a better appreciation for what it takes to put on a trial, number one. But also, I've learned so much by watching 20, 30, 40, maybe more dogs tackle the very same search. I get to see what worked, what didn't. I can have a better idea what the odor may have been doing in that space. You get to see different types of handling styles. You get to see different breeds tackle it. It's just so informative. I cannot recommend volunteering enough. And at Scent Work University, we offer our trial volunteer program, which you can find on our website. I'll make sure there's a link inside the replay page, where if you download a form before you go volunteer, you just print out that form, go to the actual trial and say, can you fill out this form for me? And it'll just note down that you did indeed volunteer. You then take a picture of that, email it to me, and I will then give you a discount off of your next enrollment through Scent Work University. It is a way for me to give back to the community, to thank everyone who volunteers, because if we don't have volunteers, we don't have trials. And that would be sad. So I highly, highly, highly recommend that anyone looking to seriously get prepared for trialing, make sure that you volunteer first. And finally, you're going to want to figure out which organizations do you want to start with. And I would strongly encourage you guys to check out Cyber Scent Work. It sounds like I'm just promoting my own thing, but it can be a really great way of getting your feet wet. So you can either do this yourself online, or you can also work with one of our approved evaluators. And the great thing is that we give you lots of different options, where you can actually start this fairly early on in your sniffing career, because you could potentially have it where your dog is hunting for food and you can still earn titles and ribbons. Or you can have your dog search for paired odor hides or scented articles. We have lots of different options. So I have some information inside the replay page so you can learn a little bit more about Cyber Scent Work. But regardless of which organization you're interested in, you may want to read up on all the different rules so you can see what the requirements are. And you may want to come up with a plan and say, you know what, these are the 4 organizations that I'm interested in. What would be a good progression for each, right? Where would be a good place for me to start? And then how do they all kind of complement each other so I can go from organization A to organization B to organization C to organization D? Right? So those are some of the things you'd want to think about as far as getting ready to prepare to trial. Now, the big question that people ask, well, how long does all this take? And my answer is there should be no rush. But my general piece of advice is that for people to truly be ready to compete in a way where they and their dogs have the skills that they need, and they're not going to get stuck in that middle level and just kind of languish for a while. Typically speaking, it's about 6 to 8 months of, consistently training. Are there teams that go a lot faster? Yes. Am I promoting you to go fast? No. We are having more competition organizations created all of the time. There are no lack of options. There's lots of titles and lots of ribbons to earn. They're not going anywhere. I would much rather you and your dog just take your time and really enjoy the journey. So a couple real quick tips and considerations to think about if you are interested in competing and trialing in scent work. The big thing is that there's lots and lots of skills that are needed for both you and your dog. You're like, you said that already. But the big thing I want to stress here is that a lot of them go beyond scent work. Because again, when you're competing in a scent work trial, you're expected to go to these novel locations. And you're not just showing up, searching, and going home. You're going to be there for a bit. So that's, again, why volunteering first can be really helpful. So you can kind of see what's expected of both you and your dog. So just as an example, from your dog's point of view, they got to be okay with traveling. They got to be okay with being crated. They got to be really okay with waiting. There's going to be a lot of waiting. They got to be okay with coping with lots of other people and dogs around. Some of these competition organizations, when they're doing a trial, there could be 100 dogs there. If there's 100 dogs there, there's 100 handlers minimum. That's a lot of chaos, right? There's a lot of stuff going on. And if your dog is only ever kind of hung out at home in the living room, that can be shell shock. So there's a lot of things you have to think about as far as how we can better prepare our pups. But that also goes on the other end of the leash too. Again, these trials are tests. So we have to think about what can we develop as far as handlers, as far as how we can deal with the test, the mental stress and time management, how we're able to stay in the right frame of mind, that we can also stay comfortable. We are going to scent work trials, again, that could be anywhere. That it can range from a school to a youth center to a nature preserve to a farm to a museum to a airfield. They've been all over the place. All a bunch of different places. They are held all the time, all year round, in all weather. That means that even, yes, if you have a monsoon, for all intents and purposes, it is raining cats and dogs, that trial is still going to go on as long as there's not like really dangerous lightning or basically tornadoes. You can have a snowstorm. If people can get there, it's going to go on. So you could be trudging through a whole lot of snow. It could be a wind advisory. It doesn't matter. Hot, cold, wet, you are still out there in the elements and coping with this stuff. It's part of the test. So that's an important thing for us to keep in mind. If you were like, I need it to be an ideal 70 degrees, nice and dry, in order for me to think well, you may want to really reconsider, like, okay, well, if you do want to compete, there may only be a certain period of time that you would be able to do that. And even then, it's not going to be able to be guaranteed. So you want to think about, how can I keep myself most comfortable so I can be the best teammate to my dog as possible? The other thing about trials that we need to keep in mind is that they are, the way I like to describe them, are pressure cookers of stress. They are filled with stressors and distractors galore. Again, they may have so many dogs and competitors, so that alone can be a huge thing for both you and your dog to deal with, just the hustle and bustle of everything. Again, these are going to be in lots of different locations. You may be working at a working farm. That could be an absolute possibility. There's going to be lots of critters, right? Big and small. Or you could be somewhere, let's say, like at a youth center in the middle of downtown. And you may have lots of other noise going on in other properties surrounding where the trial is being held. Noises that you and your dog are not familiar with. There's all kinds of possibilities. So you have to be able to determine, how can I best prepare my dog and myself to deal with these things? Because we may not be able to experience something similar to it in training, but how can I develop the skills so we can best cope and we can still be on and be the best prepared we could possibly be to still take the test and do well? But maybe my biggest piece of advice when it comes to tips and considerations for trialing is you as a handler developing the ability to still have fun even when you don't qualify. Scent work is very, very challenging, and scent work trials are no different. Again, odor is hard. So even though everyone who's putting on that trial is doing their very best to ensure that everyone has the best time possible, they can set out some hides that sometimes Mother Nature is just like, no one's going to find this today. You and your dog can do everything you possibly can in order to do well, and you may still miss a hide. You may call a false alert. You just may not qualify. The biggest tip that I have for you is to develop a way for you to still say, you know what, that's okay. It was a learning opportunity and was also a great opportunity to spend some wonderful time with my dog, and I still had fun. Every single time you get to play this activity, it is a priceless gift. That's the thing that we have to really be focused on. If you find that really hard and really challenging, like, no, I have to win every time, scent work trials may not be for you. Because everyone has called a false alert, everyone has missed a hide, everyone has not qualified in some search or another. It's guaranteed. So you really want to think through, how can I make sure that I'm approaching this in a way that celebrates what I really wanted to celebrate, which is having a great time with my dog. So I hope I was able to convince you guys just how awesome scent work is. It's an amazing activity. Again, every single dog should be playing this game. Every single dog should be doing this activity. I think that it, again, enhances the relationship that we have with our own personal dogs. And then if you do think that's competing at trials would be appropriate for you and your dog, it can be a blast. There are people who absolutely adore trialing. They have lots of fun playing the game, but they really love the trialing side of it as well. It could be a very supportive community, again, because it is open to all dogs, which can be wonderful. And everyone really likes to celebrate everyone's achievements. And it's not just about titles. Sometimes it's, my dog is a little nervous, but we went into that interior today and they weren't scared. They found 2 of the 3 hides and they came out and they were so brave. And everyone is like, oh, that's so amazing, because it is. Because we all appreciate what it can be like to have those moments when, like, I don't know if my dog can do this, but they do. And it's so heartwarming. So I cannot encourage you enough. Do scent work. Scent work is amazing. So you may be wondering, okay, what's the best way for me to get started? Well, I have good news. We offer lots and lots and lots of different resources at Scent Work University for you to check out. I'm going to have a whole bunch of links on the next screen and our recommended resources on how to get started. So we have a quick intro to scent work video. This is taken from our Introduction to Scent Work course. It walks through one of the actual exercises. So you can dive in right now. You can do this with your dog. It's really easy and it's a lot of fun. You're just going to be using food and your dog is going to have so much fun playing this game. I would highly recommend you check out the Introduction to Scent Work course. It's a 6-week course where we walk through how you can introduce your dog to the concept. They'll be tackling container and interior searches, hunting for food. I also have a couple of different ebooks for you to check out as well, including our foundations, building, maintaining, and celebrating, where we walk through how you can actually build a really solid foundation in scent work. And we also offer a variety of different search idea ebooks, where you can actually get some ideas on how you'd be able to set up some searches for your dog. We have lots of resources at Scent Work University. We love scent work. We're very passionate about it. So if you ever have any questions about how to get started or how you can go about doing this and playing the game and having so much fun, do not hesitate to contact me at Dianna@scentworku.com. I'm always happy to help. But thank you so much for joining me on this webinar today as I geeked out about scent work. Very passionate about this stuff. Please give a cookie to your puppies for us. Happy training. We look forward to seeing you soon.